Good morning everybody, welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the weekend in 23rd of November 2024. Ukraine's finally blessed with a yes from the West, leaving the Kremlin pest, distressed and stressed. Netanyahu not impressed as his alleged war crimes are addressed. In London, farmers protest in their quest to have new inheritance tax rules reassessed. Eulogies expressed as many attest to John Prescott's authenticity and zest. COP29 leaves much to digest and many contest whether it was a success or made any real progress. Relief at last for Zelensky, with Biden deciding to untie Ukrainian hands from behind them, letting them fire missiles deep into Russia to help destroy military infrastructure. Putin displayed his fear of frustration, crying and bleating about escalation. Escalation, comrade, you're having a laugh. What about your massive North Korean draft? Up to now, Ukraine's pleas had been refused to repel Russia's attacks in the way they choose. They've been adhering to the West's don'ts and do's, but it's done them no good and they're starting to lose. Meanwhile, the Kremlin coward is not troubled by rules. Rules are for losers and democratic fools. But now finally Ukraine is permitted to use ATACMS to attack them, and all hell broke loose. Britain quickly followed suit, as did the French, and the bully got angry at the West's show of strength. Not liking the taste of his own medicine, America's decision was obviously stressing him. After the tired stream of threats to nuke the West, Putin gave the free world's fortitude a stress test. With one of his biggest ballistics, Dnipro was struck, and in unison the world exclaimed, "What the fuck?" Meanwhile, like Putin, Netanyahu's now been caught by the long arm of the International Criminal Court. On Thursday he received an arrest warrant for actions in Gaza considered abhorrent. On Tuesday, Downing Street was swarming with farmers protesting against the government of Starmer. No nastiness or violence, no negative drama. If Starmer had appeared though, he may have required armour, 'cause things might have become a whole lot less calmer, because the farmers feel Starmer is the farm harmer. His government is firm on farms sharing the load, with inheritance tax changes coming down the road. Soon just farms worth less than £1 million will be able to be bequeathed to family members tax-free. Sir Keir insists it's necessary and fair for the tax burden to be more widely shared. Farmers, though, say it's caused worry and despair. This is the final straw that they just can't bear. Generational farm families starting to well up at the prospect of being forced to sell up, providing our food and a part of British life, but suffering from asset-rich, cash-poor strife. In Rio for 2 days at the G20 powwow, our Prime Minister was careful not to kowtow to Xi Jinping when they had their private chat about the economy and trade and this and that. Some criticise and question if it's wise for Sir Keir to try to boost our Chinese ties. But our PM stressed he'd gone in with open eyes on human rights issues. There was no compromise. For the sake of clean energy, trade and peace, he felt the hostile relationship had to cease. On Saturday at 11 o'clock p.m. GMT in Baku, it was early Sunday morning at 3, and after 2 weeks of heated colloquy, COP29 was finally able to agree. $300 billion a year by 2035 from rich countries to the poor to help them survive. Poor nations weren't pleased, but in the end were appeased. With Trump looming, they knew the day had to be seized. From Wales to Yorkshire to the House of Lords, a working-class lad came good who the left adored. John Prescott was a bruiser, a political titan who wasn't averse to a spot of fighting, as in the town of Rhyl in 2001 when he faced protesters in a bit of a scrum. One guy threw an egg, so John threw a left hook. For a deputy PM, possibly not the best look. Nowadays his career would have been a goner, but back then it was almost a badge of honour. He suffered no loss of face, no fall from grace. It wasn't even a case of egg on his face. John is John was all Tony Blair could say, and the matter effectively went away. Always thick as thieves were Prescott and Blair, such an enduring political pair, really quite rare. John was the PM's right-hand man, yin to his yang. For a decade their double act ran and ran. As Blair's deputy for a decade, John was the man who got old Labour voters to be a fan of the slick and progressive new Labour plan, and helped keep Labour in power for a 13-year span. Even most of his critics had to grudgingly accept John Prescott demanded everybody's respect, because with John what you got is what you saw. Authentic, direct, passionate and raw. Finished with 2 jags after starting quite poor. No one like him since, and probably no one before. The mould now in pieces all over the floor. On Wednesday at 86, John's life was no more. On the subject of men with fire and desire, Rafa Nadal's tennis was always sure to inspire. And but for Roger and Novak, it's surefire his Grand Slam title total would have been much higher. But injuries and age meant he'd never be the same, and on Wednesday he played his very last game, losing in the quarter-finals of the Davis Cup. But however you look at it, from always up, from the cup of greatness, Rafa shall always sup.